Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode. We're in season 2. Another exciting guest. Today we have with us, we have the GGP Atlanta champion, second place at the Team GOAT Format champion, number 6, second place Detroit 2K Cash Tournament, third place FLC 33, third place GGP Philadelphia, topper of GFC 24, and the topper of FLC 34, season 6 War League 10-3 record MVP season, Season 6 and Season 7 World League finalists, 5-time GOAT Format GOAT Jeopardy champion, reigning Jeopardy champion as well. We have with us today GOOLAHZ. GOOLAHZ, welcome to the show. Excited to have you here. What's been happening, mate? How are you feeling?
Yo, what's going on, Jesse? Finally glad to be on this episode. I feel like I've been starstruck for a while. I've been watching the episodes behind the scenes, but now it's good to finally be here. It's going great. It's going great. How are you, man?
Yeah, I'm doing excellent, and it's great to have you here. Look, we're coming into a new War League season. DMG's obviously running it back, a very similar team to last season. How are you guys feeling for the season, and how are you feeling personally for the season ahead?
Yeah, I think we're coming into the season strong. Obviously, we had back-to-back finishes, but we're really hungry. We really want that win. So it feels like all our guys have been grinding this off-season. We had Ludi just get third at Worlds, Chopper at second. A ton of our players have been playing excellently, so it's going to be definitely an exciting season. And a lot of great teams this round, right? We have 28 teams. This might be the biggest War League yet, so definitely a ton of exciting games in the future.
It is. It's an exciting year coming up, and you must be coming into it feeling very strong, grand final 2 years in a row. It would be cool to see you get to the grand final again, and obviously for you guys, it would be cool to win it. So curious to see how you guys and your team performs this year. It'll be exciting. And what's on for you as an individual player this year? Are you working in the background and getting into a lot of tournaments this year, or are you more War League in this year only?
You know, I'm going to try to play as much as I can. Definitely hit all the majors. Definitely play in War League every week if possible. And then I like to attend a lot of the GGPs. It's just a different... growing up, I never played a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! In fact, I played only in the neighborhood maybe when I was like 9-10 years old. But it was I think this GGP Philadelphia was actually the first time I actually played at an IRL event. So it's a lot different than playing online. There's like a more of a bluffing aspect to the game. It's not as straightforward. But you see a lot more wacky things. The players might not necessarily be as strong as the world competition, but it's definitely a good time. And then as for War League myself, I think War League is a very unique aspect of the game. You get to play a lot of decks that you would normally not feel comfortable bringing to a tournament just because you're playing such a small field in War League. And it lets you play a lot of tricks, and just being a creative deck builder, it lets me be very expressive in whatever I'm doing.
So we've got a very exciting season coming up. I'm curious to see how you go. I reckon you'll have another strong year, my friend. From that note, you mentioned there, and we're going to get into this a bit more soon anyway, but you're a bit of a newer player into Yu-Gi-Oh! Like similar to myself, you started in the last couple of years, playing it more, playing online.
I started playing Yu-Gi-Oh! In like the neighborhood growing up, and to say I was playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Might be an overstatement, because I remember I'd just be biking to people's houses. I'd have cards in my pockets, no sleeves. There was no such thing as a standby phase, no such thing as a main phase 2. And we'd just be playing playground Yu-Gi-Oh! And I did pretty well in the neighborhood. I don't think I ever lost. We would play like these Battle City rules where the winner would get the opponent's some prize card on their end, usually a very powerful card. And I remember whenever I beat someone, I just throw it in the deck. So my deck would be like 100, 200 cards sometimes, and you just keep rolling with it. It would be inconsistent. It would be crazy. But I think I might have known a thing or two more than the people I played. So,
oh, that's brilliant. And then how'd you find it? Did you find it through COVID time, or how'd you re-enter the scene?
Yeah, so actually one of my friends wanted me to play during COVID. He invited me to the GOAT Format server, and then he was more of an advanced player, so he kind of showed me some advanced, but I think my eyes were just like rolling to the back of my head because there was so much text, there were so many mechanics, so many things I wasn't familiar with. So I think I played maybe one game of advanced, and then I kind of quit for 3 years. And then suddenly I kind of came back into the scene. I was coming back from the bar one day, super hungover, and then a Patreon was actually playing on YouTube, and I was like, you know what? I don't have anything to do today. I'm going to stay home all day. I named myself Water Drinker because that's what I was doing. I was chugging water to get through the hangover. And then I just joined the Patreon and I ended up getting 5th place. So it kind of all spiraled from there.
Oh, that's so funny. Just sort of re-entered it and found a bit of success early and just sort of like, all right, I'm just going to stick with it now.
Definitely. I think it's very encouraging to see success right away. And then you kind of have more of a drive to do a lot of things. But I think at the same time, I think when you're learning the game, your losses are actually what teaches you the most. So there's a good balancing act because I feel like in Yu-Gi-Oh! Especially, you're going to be losing a lot because there's just so much variance to the game. But I think just having those losses just can make you so much of a better player.
That is a good take. That's a really good take. And it's I guess it's a take of personal responsibility, you know, taking learnings from the losses as opposed to just getting salty by them, because it is easy to do. Take a loss, and it might have been some stuff that was out of your control, and it's very easy to just write that match off. But if you can find learnings in it, obviously that's a good way to go. So that's a very good take.
Yeah, definitely. How did you get into the game?
Oh, yes. So I sort of, same thing when I was a kid in primary school. I used to have cards. I used to like play against my brother, but that was very much like we literally used to put face down cards on the floor shaped like a maze from that like Paradox Brothers Yu-Gi-Oh episode because we had that on DVD, and we'd like have our monsters move through them, and it was just ridiculous. We just had made up fun. So it was always nostalgic, and then it was through COVID. I was sort of like, oh, I wonder if there's any way to play Yu-Gi-Oh online. Like I'm just bored as shit sitting in the house. It was before I had kids and stuff. And I was just like, oh, I'll just see if I can find it. And then, sure enough, found Dueling Book, played into that, found the YouTube channel, and then same thing, I entered a PWCQ, and I lucked out. I think it was a 5th place finish as well. I just net decked AJT's Worlds list from the year before, and just had a good run, and then I sort of stuck with it since. So I hear you. It's an addicting game. And it's really good fun as well. It's just a good way to dealing with work stuff, life stuff, day-to-day stuff. You get to just jump online, play some cards. It's like its own world. Like even the Discords, it's like its own world. It's just good fun. And I sort of just stuck with it from there. Just like a really good, fun hobby.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely keeps you sharp. Gets you thinking after a draining day at work. So definitely something to do on the download. Not a huge time commitment, but I think worthwhile.
I agree. Now, on this note, GOOLAHZ, being like a quote-unquote newer player, as in you started playing competitively in the last couple of years, haven't been playing competitively for 20 years, like a few of the people that are around, which is similar to myself. You have a good idea of what it takes to enter the scene, perform well, and then I guess come from being new into being one of the top players. What was this process like for you? How'd you go from just re-entering the scene to becoming one of the best out there?
Yeah, definitely. I don't know if I'm one of the best out there, but I appreciate the compliment. I think it's kind of like throwing spaghetti at the wall, right? I think a lot of it, especially if you're trying to be creative with the deck building, you kind of have to see what's out there. You have to try it yourself. You can't just take things in theory and then actually put it to the test. And unfortunately, the story is for a lot of people, like more times than not, when you're trying something new, you're not going to be good at it, right? It's new for a reason. If it was very obvious that it was something that was very strong and good, everyone would be doing it. So if you want to try new strategies, you kind of have to lose a lot. You have to test things, and you kind of have to think creatively. But at the same time, you can't be super opposed to trying the mainstream strategies either, because I think unless you have a grasp of what everyone else is doing at a high level, you kind of are confusing yourself, and you're not making the best decks that can counter the meta. I remember I was reading the chat one day, and I know Rescue Cat is actually a deck that's been exploding in popularity, and it's done well. It just won the last Patreon. Mm-hmm. And I saw a user in the GOAT format Discord, and he said, oh man, Rescue Cat just won an event. Now I can't play this deck because everyone's going to think I copied this user that just won. And I just don't think that's like a great mentality to have. I think you got to play decks because you enjoy them, you want to learn from them, and from that regard. And I think it's a mistake to limit yourself to doing things that no one else is doing, because then you're just kind of setting yourself up for failure.
Yes, good take. And I guess that's how Chaos Turbo had such a powerful reign for such a long period of time there. There was lots of players, lots of good players actively working on the same thing and refining it. And as we can see in GOAT format, there's been lots of decks that have come in and done very well. Panda Burn has had ups and downs, but it's back on and up. Like you mentioned, Rescue Cat. There's heaps of interesting decks that just sort of like were almost not one-hit wonders, but you know what I mean? They're less frequently played, and there might only be one person working on it, which could take away from it becoming that top-tier deck and having a good reign like Chaos Turbo had for the longest time.
Yep, definitely. I remember I was speaking with MMF one day, and they were telling me, back in the day, it was kind of discouraged that people were playing Thunder Dragon. They're like, this card's a level 5, it doesn't do anything. Why don't you just play Shining Angel? It searches a card, it's good against aggro decks. And I think a lot of people just didn't play Thunder Dragon for the longest time. And then, lo and behold, a couple of years later, it's a staple of the metagame, right? Everyone's playing Thunder Dragon. It's one of the best cards. It makes your Charity better. Makes your Raigeki Breaks better. Raigeki Break is another card. Like, no one was playing it because it's inherently a -1, but eventually someone does it, and then there's this whole breakthrough, and the floodgates just keep pressing.
Yeah, that's very true. And I wonder, there's probably more cards out there like that now that we've have been written off as bad, and they could have good application. I have this personal theory I haven't really tested. I've been working on it in the background a little bit, but I was always wondering if Lightning Vortex has been underexplored. I don't know. There's good reasons why it hasn't been played. It's Tribe Infecting Virus without a body, essentially, but I don't know. There's some interesting cards out there. I'm curious to see what sort of comes this year.
Yeah, definitely. I think last year there was a lot of weird stuff. I don't think anyone thought Jirai Gumo and Time Seal, and even Compulse was a pretty niche card. So, and then obviously, I don't think anyone in 1,000 years would have saw Toon Goblin Attack Force being a card that threatens a lot of players.
That's so true. So do you think from becoming a new player into getting to that high level, do you think a lot of it is this deck building aspect in terms of obviously be explorative, be bold with your choices, and just get good at the sort of fundamentals, and you can pilot any sort of deck to having a good performance? And do you think this is a big part of your process from becoming, walking into the scene a bit newer, and then getting some really good results? Was that something that was massive for you?
Yes and no. I think usually when I see a lot of new players come to the scene, they usually fall into two archetypes. They're either coming into the scene where they're overconfident, they think they know everything, and then they kind of refuse to take criticism or advice from players that clearly have the experience and the resume to kind of provide strong advice. And then they kind of have this mental block where they're not trying the ideas that other people have tested and build upon those ideas. But at the same time, there's another group of players where it feels like they're very timid and shy, and they're too afraid to try new things. They're only taking advice from top players, and they're not willing to experiment and get their hands dirty. And I've noticed people be like, hey, I follow a strict guide for my side deck. If it's not this way, it's there's no other way to do it. And I think that aspect of the game is also a way you could fall into another trap. So I think the best new players are those who kind of take more of a balanced approach, right? You can't be the boldest in the room all the time, but you can't be the shy guy either, right? You need to learn from people that know what they're talking about, but you can't take everything that they take as gospel, because there are things that they don't know, and then you kind of become an imitation of themselves, of those players, and kind of never break through those barriers.
I agree, and finding different ways to break through. And I actually personally believe, and I'd be curious to hear your take on this, I personally believe that different people, based off whatever it may be, our psychological makeup or whatever, will have different play styles that suit them. that they either simply enjoy more and perform better with, or there is an element of like this person is just better suited to, example, an aggro themed deck. Do you think that's a thing, or do you think that's just sort of cope?
I think there are tendencies where players kind of, they might enjoy certain play styles more. Like some players might enjoy the aggro decks and oppressing the opponent through attacks and like those very quick games, and some players might like those really grindy games. But I don't think players are necessarily limited to those individual play styles. Like, for example, let's take a player like Ivan, and I strongly believe this. I think Ivan is a very technically sound player, and then they pretty much only play turbo. But I would bet my bottom dollar that if they wanted to play Warriors, or if they wanted to play Reasoning Gate, they've got the fundamental skills from just playing the game so long that they would have some transference of those skills when they take up those other decks. They may not be the best player at those decks immediately, but I think we have to keep in mind we're playing a game from 2005, right? We're not doing rocket science. We're not doing brain surgery. I think if you put your mind to it and you're willing to dedicate the time, you are more than capable of playing a variety of different decks. But at the same time, I don't want to come across and say you'll be the best at everything, right? Because obviously you have a finite amount of energy, and the more you diversify, the less you can dedicate to each craft. So you'll kind of, instead, I don't want to use the phrase become what is the phrase? A master of one is worse than a master of some. But that's kind of the case, right? You're not necessarily a jack of all trades, but you'll be a master of some per se, not the best player at the one individual deck. So kind of rambly there, but hopefully my point came across.
Yeah, it landed, man. I understand what you're saying. That makes good sense. It's I agree. Now, GOOLAHZ, if you had I guess if we could limit this down to some, specific actions. So let's just assume we've got a player that, they know the rules of the game. They're not first time ever playing the cards. They know the rules. They know the decks. They're sort of up to date with the meta. They know, they know all the decks. They know what the decks play styles are. They know how to side properly. And let's assume they're just an average player, but they want to start beating other good players consistently. What are some specific things that they could do to get better? If we could limit it down to some real tangible actions that they could start working on, as soon as this episode's done and they've listened to it, and they can go start working on this to become better. What do you think some of those things are?
Definitely. In terms of Yu-Gi-Oh itself, obviously get the reps in, right? You can be grinding the ladder. You can be playing your friends. You can be playing your teammates. I think the more accustomed you are to your deck and the more matches you get in, you can kind of develop a sort of rhythm, especially if you're very new to the game, right? You won't be spending as much time in side decking where you're kind of formulating the ideas as you go. And a lot of times you will be having to do that in each match, but I think having some sort of game plan is a very good way to approach the game. That way you can kind of focus your energy on what's important. I think another important thing is focusing on what you can fix outside of the game, right? Every time I play in a tournament, I make sure to get up early, take a shower, eat breakfast, have a sort of routine. That way you're firing on all cylinders. You're not going into the match super groggy if you don't have to. And then I think this is especially true if you play IRL. I think showing up to the tournament early, wearing clothes that make you feel confident, things that impact your day-to-day life, I think, in a better way. Getting good sleep is another thing, where if you maximize your potential outside of the game, you'll do better inside the game as well.
This is actually a very good point, and it's never been touched on before. In when you say this, for War League matches, I had a very specific pre-match routine. But then I even think about life. I've always been in performance jobs. So I was in business for a lot of years. Now I'm in sales. And like one thing that like I do, which like people are like, why the fuck do you do that? Like, isn't it not just a waste of money? Is like the same day, same time, each week I'm in the same barbershop, fucking spending like $60 every single week at the same barbershop, at the same time, blah, 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 blah. But it's like, it makes you feel sharp, it makes you feel confident. And then in return, when you have to perform in things, you have, I believe it makes a fucking big difference. And it's interesting that you say the same thing for, Yu-Gi-Oh! Even in an online way. So that's a very, very good point. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, investing in yourself is probably the best investment you can make, right? Doesn't matter what gear you're playing, doesn't matter the rarity of the cards, but if you show up to the tournament sharp, looking sharp, feeling energized, you're going to do better, right? And I'm the same way. Like, get that routine haircut, go to the gym, listen to the music that makes you feel happy in a positive mood, right? You don't want to come into the match thinking, oh, I'm outmatched, I'm not feeling my best, oh, if I lose, my teammates can cover me. No, you need to be coming into each match, especially in something like War League, with a killer attitude, and that's the same with life, right? You wouldn't want to show up to your job unshowered or unprepared. I'm the same way. Whenever I have like a meeting that I'm going to or I'm giving a speech, I like to warm up with tongue twisters or kind of rehearsals where I know I'm going to say the right information at the right time, and I'm going to do it well. And I think it's the same with Yu-Gi-Oh, right?
And that's a point I think can be missed, and without being what I'm about to say, I'm not trying to like be mean or bullying, but you can go to like in real life card events and you see some of the people playing, and it can be a fucking smelly room, it can be an ungroomed room, and anyway, I'm not trying to take the piss out of people like in a friendly way, of course, but like I think there is an element of, if you are looking after yourself, you're going to be more confident, you're going to be in a more positive headspace overall, which gives you results in different things. So that's actually a really good point.
Definitely.
This was an unplanned point for the listeners as well. It's just sort of, it's interesting the things that pop up in these conversations. It's really good fun.
Yeah, I think if you notice, actually, I played in a couple IRL events, and if you actually see the streams, I always show up either in a polo or in a dress shirt. I show up, I feel like I'm going to almost like a meeting or an important event. I'm not treating it like I'm going to my friend's house on a weekend, right? Like, this is something I care about, and I think just presenting yourself in the best way is the best way to kind of lock in.
Beautiful. That's a beneficial point. So that's something that can be implemented straight away, listeners out there. And another important point you touched on as well was the mentality when you're going into these matches. So you've played heaps of matches now that are at higher stakes. You've played your important playoff matches. You've been in grand final events in real life and online as well. There's no denying that there's a mental element to Yu-Gi-Oh! How do you go about navigating this? How are you entering these matches in such a positive mind state? How are you managing the emotions or potential nervousness of going up against another really strong player in an important match where there's like, you've got teammates riding on you to win or something like this? How do you go about approaching this?
Yeah, definitely. That's a tough one for a lot of players. I want to say, fortunately, I think there were only 2 events I think I've ever entered where I was actually very nervous to play in. The first one was GGP Philadelphia, because it was the first time I actually ever played IRL, and I was not used to shuffling the cards or holding them in my hand. I'm not used to siding out my deck and then siding cards back in. Actually, in this event, I remember I actually got a game loss because I didn't fully outside. I didn't side out a lot of my cards from the previous game, and fortunately, I ended up still topping the event. But I remember I made that mistake, and I made sure to count my cards properly in the top cut, and I know for sure that's never going to happen to me again. I think a lot of it comes down to repetition, right? If you come in prepared, the more you repeatedly do things, the less likely you are to be off guard, and you are more accustomed to playing at your best if you kind of fine-tune those elements just through repetition. But I think another thing is, this is more so outside of the game itself. Again, it's you got to find things in your life that are more important than Yu-Gi-Oh, like or more or less stressful than Yu-Gi-Oh. I think Yu-Gi-Oh is a game I love, so I don't get nervous when I play it. I think there's a lot of things in my life that I have to save my stressful energy on, right? Like when I go to an important business meeting, there's a lot more at stake when I play or when I'm in those meetings, or giving or doing an interview or something like that, than when I'm playing a game of Yu-Gi-Oh. So to me, I'm just doing something I love. So why should I be stressed? That's the way I think about it.
Interesting. It's like you can sort of choose the meaning you give to the game. And if you're going into an important match, like this is going to be fun, this is an exciting match, you'll have a more positive energy throughout. Is that sort of on track with what you're saying?
Yeah, definitely. But you can't also be very loosey-goosey about it either, right? You got to take things with a level of seriousness. It's kind of like, I know there's a quote by LeBron James where he's saying there's no pressure at all whenever he plays, because he loves to play basketball, and essentially he's putting all his energy and focus on basketball, but there's no pressure while he does it, because it's ultimately something he enjoys doing. So I think if you really enjoy it, there will be a level of stress to perform, but it won't be the same sort of stress as the stress associated with intimidation, when you get super nervous to do something you're not very familiar with. I think just beat in your head what's important, but also have a good mindset when you do it.
And I've spoke on this in the past once. I think it was AJT episode a while back, and it's sort of on track with this, where it was like, if you can change the mentality from like you're a little fish getting into a big tank, especially in these guys that are coming into their first season of War League, because it's a big deal to a lot of people walking into it, and it's like, if you can change it from being frightened to even the opposite, where it's like they should be frightened of me, they don't know who they don't know who they're in the ring with right now, can make a massive difference. And you just play clearer, you're making better decisions, you're not making mistakes, all of those sort of things, because it's like, you see it sometimes with newer players, like they'll just do basic things, like they're forgetting the serpent for turns at a time, or they're fucking bringing the wrong deck into a match, which is like, obviously accidents can happen, but they're avoidable accidents that would not be happening if you were coming into it sharp and productive mindset. So this is really good for a newer player.
Definitely.
So I'm actually not sure the numbers, but there's a fair few new faces in War League. Even on our Oz 2 teams, we've got 2 Oz teams this year. One of our teams has 1 new player, and the other team has about 4 new players completely new to War League, and I know there's other teams like that out there. For these guys, they're coming into potentially their first War League match next week. What's any advice that you have for these sort of players who are coming into their first War League match, never played in War before?
Yeah, definitely. It's exactly like you said. First, make sure you enter your match knowing that you're playing the right deck, right? It would be a miserable experience to be introduced to the format and load the wrong deck. So I would start, at least go to the deck builder, make sure you're loaded up correctly. Do a solo mode duel, make sure you're loaded up correctly. That way you kind of end up, the worst thing you could do is start at a disadvantage, right? Because then it's going to spiral out of control. Second, it's like you said, a lot of these guys, you should treat it as if they're afraid of you, right? You're a new guy, you have nothing to lose, or gal, and you have nothing to lose, right? And a lot of these guys, they might have some stress from their reputation, or there's a lot of expectations that they should win. You should go in, be like, hey, I'm using this as a learning experience. I'm playing against a great player. I can only get better. I'm going to play my heart out and show them what I can do. And I think if you have that mentality, you'll go into the match with a much clearer head, and then who knows, you can probably upset them too. So I think have a ritual. Make sure you're doing what you're doing to get yourself in the right headspace, and then just perform. Because once you're in there, all the other things are just distractions, right? Just focus on the game, and then just play your heart out.
That's a beautiful way to go about it. So any of you new guys listening, there's some gold laid right out there for you. GOOLAHZ, how do you personally prepare? So if you're coming into a major tournament, and also some War League matches as well, but if you're coming into, preparing for these things, how do you go about preparing? Are you doing research on the meta? Are you basing it off last tournament's results? Are you just keeping up with the meta so you have a good idea of what to expect and then basing decisions around this? How do you prepare for War League matches and also major tournaments?
Yeah, this is a tough question because it really depends on event to event. War League is very different where you kind of know who you're playing, right? So you should tailor your decks to who you're playing specifically and then what the possible outcomes are, right? So I think one of the benefits to my sort of play style is I'm very adaptable, and I like to play a variety of different decks. I play Burn, Reasoning, Chaos Return, Chaos Turbo. I played Earth. So I feel like the edge I have is I'm very unpredictable in what I'm bringing. So it kind of lets me narrow in on those players that only play one deck, and it kind of lets me exploit them. In an open tournament, you're kind of following more trends, and you're looking at the previous events. You're looking at what people are talking in the Discord, like what they're discussing. What is the new wave of Turbo? What they're siding? Are more people playing? What's meta? Are more people playing Battle Traps? Are they playing Apprentice Magician, for instance? You kind of need to keep up with the wave and kind of perform there. IRL is another different situation. A lot of time when I'm going to IRL events, I know some areas they're playing primarily Turbo. But other areas, I know who knows what they're playing. It's like they're playing a different format by some of the card choices that they're making. So then you kind of have to play for a more broad field. So I think being adaptable and kind of figuring things out as they go and kind of tailoring to your audience is kind of the way to do it. What about you, Jesse? How do you usually prepare?
Oh, that's a very good question. I have Discord app on my phone. So when I have breaks in the day, like just to break up my day, if I'm going for a quick walk, if I'm eating some lunch, whatever the case is, I'll just open it up and scroll through all the different channels and the chats that are going on. And you surprisingly pick up a lot of what's going on from doing this. Like you pick up some players speaking about some things. Like I know there's some debates right now about the Apprentice Magician package in Turbo for the Warrior Mirror. And then in my head throughout the day when I'm having, gaps in work or whatever, I start just thinking about different things. How can I counter this? How can you exploit this? What's everyone doing? Looking at the field in terms of we know it's Warrior heavy right now. And as well as that, using opportunities to test things. So I had a hot run there a little while back with my Warrior Turbo Smoke. Spent a lot of time building out. And that's sadly not in a good place right now. And I've tested that to its bones. And now it's like, okay, I've made about an 8-card adjustment to that list, which I'll be, rolling out at different points throughout the season when it calls for it. So I think for me, it's like I try and keep up to date with what's happening as much as possible, and just keeping eyes on players who are talking about who's doing what, who's citing this, and you can pick up some trends in terms of Steve plays a lot of matches with stuff Ivan's testing. So if you can keep up with what Steve's doing when he's grinding a ladder or grinding different ladders or whatever, you can sort of see the ideas that Ivan's starting to put into motion, if you know what I mean. And you can sort of pick up these things. You start to learn who the alt accounts are, and you can sort of keep an eye on them and see what they're sort of doing. And it's a fun way to keep up with sort of what's happening. And then as well as that, just playing. This will be an interesting question, actually. How do you feel about playing on the GOAT general ladder, like playing lots of matches, compared to not playing at all? I have these counteractive views on it. But yeah, what do you think about that?
It's good and bad, right? I know there's a lot of controversy behind some people saying ladder is really awful, and there's other people saying, oh, ladder is all you need. And I think, like most things, it's just a balancing act. I remember when I was preparing for GGP Atlanta, I actually made an alt account and I just grinded a crazy amount of games on Chaos Return, just primarily on ladder. I played maybe a game or two against my teammates, but I really wanted to make sure I had the fundamentals down, and I wanted to get a ton of games in on the ladder. And I think I actually ended the season because I was just grinding before the event, and I somehow in like a week or so, or maybe in a couple days, I think I hit top 5 on the ladder, and I had over an 82% win rate. And I think this is back when I think recently Return has been played a lot more, but back then I think prior to that event it was definitely more of a sleeper pick. So I think if you use ladder as a way to gather a ton of games and get the fundamentals down behind a deck, I think it's a great way to learn. But at the same time, it's not going to represent a tournament field, right? So your individual card choices shouldn't be reflective on the ladder, because that's a whole different community. That's a whole different pool of players. You should be focusing primarily on the players and the field that you're going to enter. So from a practice standpoint, I think it's fine. I think it's adequate. And it's probably the most effective way to get a ton of different games. But know your audience and know what you're running into. So I think use it as a tool, but don't make it the only tool if you have other options.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'd say it's like, do you think it's like if you're wanting to like get good at a new deck and learn siding patterns, learn how it sort of flows, learn if it's a good idea to solemn to protect the Gravekeeper Spy or it's not in that case, and just some different situations you can put yourself in. It's sort of a good tool for things like that, isn't it? Like if you've got a new deck that you're like, I want to get some reps in, ladder's a really good way to do that.
Yep, definitely. And I know you're a big fitness and gym guy. It's kind of like you're comparing volume to intensity, right? When you're going to these tournaments, you're it's almost like you're at a powerlifting meet. You're trying to hit your 1 rep max or your 3 rep max or whatever it is in meet, but in ladder you're basically getting the volume. You're playing a lot of chunk decks, but you're getting a ton of games in, and you're building a ton of tonnage through those games. So it's just a different way of thinking about things, I think.
That's a beautiful analogy. It makes, it's really, really good sense. Because, there is an element of, exactly, there's an element of volume being a required thing, but then there's a point of diminishing returns. Like if you're hitting way too many reps in the gym, for example, there's a point you get diminishing returns and even hurt yourself. But there is no denying that there is a healthy amount of volume that is needed to drive progress. I've never thought about it like that, but that's exactly right.
What about you? Do you think ladder is integral to your practice, or are you mostly going into tournaments playing against your teammates?
So I actually use ladder a bit. I've got like 15 alt accounts that I like. I will just, when I want to test something new, just so I can work out how it's going, I make a new account, put the deck I want to test on, and over time it takes me about 2-3 months, but I try to play about 100 matches with it and then seeing where that win rate sort of ends up. And I have found from doing that, the decks where I'm having an 80% plus sort of win rate over the ladder, they're decks that also have performed in War League and have performed in tournaments and things like this, where in return I've tried these different decks that might have only won 65% of the time. And it's like, okay, I'm the same player. My skills haven't changed too much since I tried that deck to that deck, but there was a 15% less win rate with that deck. So the deck's obviously letting me down in the deck builder somewhere. And then you go back to the drawing board. So I do use it as a bit of a tool. And there is a point where once you get to at least a high enough rating, the matches are actually somewhat decent. Like just before we had this started filming today, I jumped on the ladder for a quick match. And I got paired against someone who, I think he was like 1200 rating, which as we know, rating on the ladder is not the biggest deal, but he actually gave me a really good battle. It was really good. We went to game 3. He ended up beating me in the end, actually. And that was actually a really good, productive match. I took a couple of learnings out of that. I did a bad solemn judgment and it ended up costing me the game. And he had some beautiful reads, which was also, it was just a really good, productive match. So I do think, to an extent, ladder's a cool tool that we have at our hands to be able to use.
Yeah, definitely. And it's not like everyone you play in tournament is going to be an excellent player either, right? Like, especially those early rounds, there's a good chance you might be playing some weaker players, and I think ladder practice there is a good way to emulate that as well.
Definitely, because they do have, you do have some players that will just, like, even just some crazy things, like 3 dust shoots kept in against Warrior. And you ask them in the chat box and you're like, why did you we're in game 2 versus Warrior. I used to hate it when I was smoke screening because they keep in all these turbo hate cards. And I'm like, what the fuck? I just smoke screened. And I'd ask them in the chat, I'd be like, why did you keep the 3 shoots in? And they're like, oh, it's because I'm going first. And then you look at the replay after, and they had the one lucky dust shoot land early in the match, which now builds into their head that they think it's a good choice. But they forget about the fact that the next 2 dust shoots were dead top decks, which ended up, giving me the edge to win the game. So there are some interesting things like that where you do get ready for anything, and you can't just take.
It's not even that's more logic than I would have used. Like, because I've had players be like, "Oh, what do you mean? Dust shoot is a good card. It's banned in modern." And they kind of use that logic.
It's very interesting, and it's like I can't remember what it's called. Is it called confirmation bias when you have something that's not ideal or is actually more often than not bad, but you had a positive result from it once? So you're like, psychology builds a thing around it being a good thing. And if you don't have the self-awareness to realize that, you can sort of cloud your own judgment and let yourself down a little bit. Is that what it's called? Confirmation bias? I think that's what it is.
I believe so. Yeah, it sounds right to me.
But that's something.
I've been the same person, right? Like, where I've been like, oh, this deck did well in a tournament one time. Let me cope on it and work on it for a while. And then I think that's what I did with Soul Control. I got like 9th place in an event, and then I think I bombed every other tournament I played with it for like the next 5 events.
But it's like, hey, that one time it did good. It did fucking good.
Yeah.
Now, GOOLAHZ, you've had success with a very interesting deck. It's probably the deck you're most famous for. And I'm not sure what you actually call it. It's a burn deck. It has rotors. It has stall cards. It has fake traps. It has the Toon Man. How did you build this deck? How did you find results with this deck? Like, what was the philosophy behind it? Just give us a rundown of that deck in general.
Oh, man. It's a deck by many names. I think a lot of people like to go by Drain Burn. A lot of people say Stall Burn. I know Ivan likes to say GOOLAHZ Burn. But this deck was actually just like a happy accident. Like I said, I was playing in that one event, the Patreon, and I was just like fumbling around with like a bunch of different decks, and I believe I wanted to play Earth Aggro that day, and I submitted a list, and I wasn't like super familiar with like the YDK thing that you have to do, and I submitted the wrong list in the YDK, and it was this like amalgamation of like an Earth Aggro burn deck that kind of made sense but kind of didn't, with like fake traps and giant rats and goblin attack forces. And I'm like, oh, I don't know how to undo it. And then the round just started. I gotta play it. And then I win round 1. And then I win round 2. And then I win round 3. And then I play against a very powerful opponent. I think actually I beat Marcus Hayden and I beat Don't Copy in that tournament. So I'm playing a bunch of strong players and I'm winning. And I'm like, what am I doing here? It's working. It's kind of all clicking together. And then I ended up getting 5th place at that event. And then from there on, you're like, oh, this is working. Why don't we just fine-tune it? Why don't we just try to make it better? And I get this idea of playing like, hey, if Goblin Attack Force is good, it's like a wall, it's an attacker. And all these turbo decks are playing stuff like Upstart Goblin, where you're drawing cards and you're giving your opponent life points, but you're fine giving them the life because your cards are just better. Why don't we just play Toon Goblin Attack Force? It's like I get to play 3 Upstart Goblins, and I get a card that I want anyways. And it kind of, I entered the FLC with that for the first time, and then I got 3rd at that FLC. And immediately after that, I think I got I topped the next FLC, and then I got third at Philadelphia. So it all kind of just came together, and I've been refining it over the year and a half that I've been playing, and I think it's a surprising deck. I think a lot of people think either the deck is super broken or they think the deck is really awful, but I think it's like a lower tier 2 deck, or it's like a tier 2 deck, tier 1.5 deck that I think has a lot of potential and can definitely catch a lot of people off guard.
Yeah, I think that's one of the real powerful things about it is you put a player with good fundamentals, you're a good player, and then you give them a deck that's like unexpected. And even in a War League setting, like knowing that that's an option for you, like that takes some side spots. I remember preparing for you guys 2 seasons ago when we had your round 1 of playoffs. And like your deck took like 5, which you didn't even play, I don't think. Oh, you did play actually, because I remember it caught one of my teammates off guard with the fake trap ruling. But like it took like 5 side spots for all of us, which could have obviously been used to counter the Warriors better or whatever the case. But just knowing that was a possibility. It's taken side spots. In tournaments, if players haven't played it before, there's so many different rulings going on. You know, you're under skill drain. There's fake traps. There's just heaps of unique cards that you have to be thinking about what's happening. That's very easy to make mistakes.
Yep, definitely. And it's a deck that makes you feel very uncomfortable to play against it, right? And I think it kind of goes back to that like mentality aspect where if you're uncomfortable, you're going to play worse, and it kind of spirals from there. And I think I like to set myself up in a way where I'm more comfortable than my opponent. I like to give myself every edge I can. And the fact that like I have this ability to play this deck in something like War League where some people have to dedicate 3, 4, 5 side deck slots, and I don't even have to play it when they're doing this, right? Just the threat of having the deck in my arsenal is enough to give our team an advantage. And when it works, it kind of can make people look like fools. And at other times, it's just a smokescreen where I can make them force them to have those sideboard cards for the list, and then I'm playing something completely different. I'm playing a return deck or a reasoning gate or a chaos turbo, and they've got this whole patch of dead cards in their side deck that could be used elsewhere if I wasn't on the roster. Absolutely. And it's exactly that. It's one of those decks that's... One thing I always say is, like, give me one of the top players playing Chaos Turbo any day over somebody playing even, like, any player playing a deck that's, like, a little bit unpredictable, because it's just so uncomfortable. You're just like, what's coming? It's so hard to put a read on a card. There's different rulings that you have to think about that you don't think about in 95% of your other duels. Things like that. It does make you uncomfortable. So it's a very strong choice. Now, I know you guys had some new recruits to your team. Are you guys implementing like any unique strategy? Obviously, you don't give away the whole story, but is that when you're picking up new players, is that something you look for? Like, do you look for deck diversity? Are you looking for very strong Chaos Turbo players with good fundamentals? Like, what goes in your recruiting process? Yeah, so we have a big approach on, we like a very even balance of aggro and sort of control or turbo mid-rangey decks. We like a good balance because then no one can really pre-side too hard for us. Like, they can't go, okay, they throw 4 aggro every single week. Let's just bring, stuff that's good for aggro. We have a very consistent like 2-2 and then a sort of off-meta sort of split, and that seems to be working really well for us. Jace built that ideology out really well. And if you look back through, because we kept a really good track of it, we weren't getting pre-sided for very much ever. We would sort of look at like, okay, Jesse was performing well. Like, I've had a couple of good seasons on mostly aggro. We've got Dueling High, best warrior player in the world, arguably, on his warriors. We've got some new warrior players that can play other things as well this year, like Pokedex, and some exciting recruits like this, as well as Don't Copy. And it's sort of like, we take that into consideration. But for the B team, I'm sort of like shadow captaining the B team. So Stressful's our listed captain who will do all the stuff. But I'm essentially assisting with the captaining of that team. And we'll be taking similar philosophy
But I'm introducing something to them, and I want it known because I want it in all of their opponents' heads. We're going to be having a random amount, 1 to 3 players per week, randomly assigned to be on smokescreen strategies. And this is going to, because my team are newer, some of them are newer to War League, I want them to have the edge of nobody will be able to plan a strict side plan for any of my players, because at any point in any week, any of them will be on a smokescreen strategy, and that's going to be a common theme in each week. So I'm really curious to see how that rolls out. But they're the couple of things that have been, in mind with the Oz team over the last couple of seasons.
Yeah, definitely plant that seed and kind of get people paranoid on whether or not they're going to smokescreen, right? I like that idea.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be good. Like, crazy things. You've got Reasoning Gate into Burns. You've got Earth Aggro's into Stall Burns. We've got Chaos Relinquished into Chaos Relinquished Stall Burns. Warrior to Turbo. All the fun stuff. It's going to be interesting to see how it goes. And on this note as well, GOOLAHZ, you're part of DMG. You've made the grand final 2 years in a row. How do you think being on such a successful team has impacted or speed tracked like your personal results?
I want to say it's a huge factor. Just being in an organization where a lot of the players just care a lot about the game is huge. It's step one, right? Even there's a lot of organizations where I've noticed that there are strong players, but they're kind of checked out, and I feel like if they're only showing up to the events or the tournaments, that doesn't make the weaker players or the other players on your teams better. It just doesn't, right? And I think having a team that's very collaborative and willing to try new things, and at the same time also have strong players, is probably one of the greatest edges you can have in the game, right? It makes it so that all the wacky ideas you test, they're not flukes if they work well, because these people care about the game, they know what you're doing, and then if it still works, you probably have something there. So I think it's been pretty huge and instrumental to my rapid growth. I think there's a night and day difference between when I started playing and then when I joined Damage Step, and I'm definitely a way better player just being in this environment.
Incredible. I'm not surprised to hear that. It's I think MMF runs a really good ship over there, that's for sure. What do you think, and you touched on it before, what do you think has given DMG the edge over the last 2 seasons? You've made the grand final 2 seasons in a row. That doesn't happen by accident. What do you think's been the difference between you guys and even Team Oz, for a good example, who've made the playoffs twice, but lost in round 1? What do you think's that final bit of difference between like yourself and then teams that are around like the Oz caliber?
Yeah, that's a good question, Jesse. Obviously, number one is, like I said, all the players give a shit. All the players are working very hard to improve their ability, because they kind of want to help the other people on the team, and they don't want to be the one that's bringing us down, right? So it feels like everyone is always trying their hardest whenever they play, especially in War League. I think number 2 is actually a lot of our players offer a lot of different things, so our team is very well balanced, not only in deck selection, but in kind of philosophy and mindsets to the game. I think our team has the ability to flex very aggro decks, turbo. I think we have a lot of great turbo specialists, and they kind of play that more mid-range decks. You have obviously me and MMF playing all those weird decks, Reasoning Burn, Panda Burn, you name it. But not just that. I think it's like the players have a lot of different things that they're contributing. I think players like me and like Ludi and like Corinna, we're a little bit newer to the scene, and we're very hungry, and we want to do our best, and we want to be at the top, and we want to beat everyone there is to play. Players like MMF, Insidious, Psychotic, they've got a wealth of knowledge. They've been playing the game for since the beginning, it feels, and they just have that experience that we can lean on and really learn from, and that base definitely goes a long way. Got players like Rixa, who is really trying to push the envelope, and they play some of these really wacky decks, Earth decks with Jinzo and Cyber Jar, Morphing Jar, Final Attack Orders. It's just a lot of crazy stuff, and he's trying to do it his way, and then it all somehow works out. Players like Abi, where they have such a great amount of composure, and they know how to disassociate themselves from all the stress and all the side talk that happens in War League, because a lot of the time, War League is just a yap fest, and people are just trying to plant these bad ideas in your head whenever you're trying to play them. I think he does a great job of being very mature about things and staying focused on the goals. So I think all those different minds together kind of blend to a very powerful team where we can kind of lean on each other and leverage each of our experiences to kind of all come out as stronger players.
Beautiful. That makes good sense. It's a really good team. It's a really good team. That's all I have to say about it. It's a really good, my friend. GOOLAHZ, before we wrap up, I'm going to give you a rapid fire, just trivia style questions, just about the War League and current season.
Oh man.
There's not like right or wrong answers. It's just more opinionated questions. So predictions for the upcoming year. Who's playoff hot? 3-4 teams.
Man, I'm gonna have to do my my classic move that I do in a lot of my work things. It's an I don't know, because I don't know who's on every team yet. So let me pull up the lists of players. Give me 1 second. Let me pull up this list actually.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay, because I do want to be honest with a lot of things. I think anyone that knows me knows I'm pretty honest, or very honest with whatever I'm saying. So I'm not afraid to say when people are doing things right and wrong. Not that there's necessarily a right and wrong in the scenario, but I can tell who's pulling the work, and I'm not afraid to go into it. So let's take a look. So I think obviously our back-to-back performances, I want to say we're definitely a favorite. I don't know why. I think there's a lot of players in the league that somehow think we're not as good of a team as we actually are, and I'm not sure what gives that idea, but I've definitely noticed that. But I want to say we're definitely a top 3 team in the league. Another good team is what is the team Moxies is on right now? Is it?
Oh yes.
It's on the second page. let me pull this up. The Coalition of Nations. It feels like that's like a super powerful team. It's kind of a combination of Team Overdose, Team Rico, Team Legio. So a lot of powerful players in the North American side, as well as Italy, right? Which definitely can be a formidable team. I think those guys probably have the best fundamentals in the league. Obviously, Oz is a very powerful team. I think you guys had a lot of great additions. Or not Oz anymore, right? You guys are
the Big Koala.
Big Koala?
Yeah.
Big Koala, right? yeah. Big Koala, very powerful team. A lot of players I respect. A lot of newer names like such as yourself. But, great pickups with Copy last season with Dueling High. I think you guys can definitely make a run for it as well. Great fundamentals, willing to try new things. And then finally, I want to say the Bones teams are obviously very powerful teams as well. Just given the amount of prep that they put in each week. I know Tiso is very infamous with his preparation, and that can lead them to a lot of great victories for sure.
Yes, they have been they've been probably one of the most consistent teams in the league, really, over a handful of seasons, from what I know. That'll be very interesting to see.
Definitely, yeah.
Let's see how these predictions come to life in about 14 weeks' time or whatever it is.
Yep, definitely. And then there's definitely a lot of other great teams out there. Like I know there's a team with Ivan Casino Royale. That's kind of like a combination of Rico and Solitaire. There's Degeneration X. A lot of veteran players, a lot of players that have been getting really good at the game very quickly. I know Oracle got into the game, back into the game recently, and he's been killing it. Carl Waite, Fresh IRL is another name there, and then the Regulators is another powerful team. I mean that one has a lot of Rico players, Scrub for Life, some additions from Bones with Dilf. I mean, it just feels like there's so many powerful teams in the league this year, so you have to be on guard if you want to win.
Agreed. It's going to be an exciting season. Next trivia question. MVP candidates guess. Give me 2 or 3.
Oh man, I think it's very tough not to put some of the damage guys up there. I think the past 3 seasons, I think season 5, Ludi was an MVP candidate. Season 6, I was. Season 7, Insidious was. So I think at least one of those 3 players, I think, will definitely make it far. Or even a possibility where all 3 of us do. So that would be choice number 1. I think in terms of like historical players, Moxie is another powerful player that I've always kept my eye on. I don't know why, it always feels like he kind of disappears for a while, but then he kind of shows up out of nowhere and then proves to everyone why he's one of the best warrior players in the game, or one of the best players in the game. So he's definitely one. And then I think another name to note another 2 names to note. I think Ivan Rosito, obviously, probably the best turbo player in the league, and then just a ton of knowledge about the game. I think most of the ideas have been built off his ideas. And then finally, I think Danny Cassie is another powerful name. Just super consistent player, great performance season after season. Kind of has his own style of turbo list that always shows up. Obviously can be a very controversial figure in terms of attitude, but as a player that you can run into, he's not a guy you want to play if you want to optimize your chance of winning.
Absolutely. And in your opinion, who's the best player you've ever played against? So if you could nail it down to one person, who do you think is the best player you've played in history?
Best player I've ever played in history. I could give you the cop-out answer. I think it would probably just be Anthony Alvarado. Yeah. I think this is a player that's proven themselves in every metric they can in Go format, from old to future. Definitely a player that I respect a lot, and I know they respect me. And I had a conversation with them prior to one of these events. I think I met him for the first time IRL in GGP Philadelphia. I remember I asked him, "Hey, I'm a new player. I've got a lot of prospects. I'm doing well at all these events," and he told me straight up, "Man, I like you. You're a good player, but we can't start you if you were on our War League. I think you're too one-dimensional in your play style, and I think a lot of people are just going to prepare for you day in and day out." And I kind of did the Jordan meme where I'm like, I took it personally, and I went from playing just Burn or just Earth, and I played a ton of different decks now, and I think it partially has to do with that conversation I had with Alvarado, where I wanted to be like he described me as a very smart guy, but it felt like I was limiting myself to one deck. So I didn't want to be known as the best Burn player or the best Earth player or the best Turbo player. I wanted to be the best versatile player or the best player. I think it's kind of a long-winded answer, but definitely a player I've learned a lot from, just from observation or through conversations.
Beautiful, and I think you can't fault that answer, can you? GOOLAHZ, what an episode! I appreciate you jumping on with me. It's been great fun. I'm sure the listeners will absolutely love it. Do you have any final words or shout outs or anything before we wrap up the episode?
Yeah, definitely, Jesse. This has been a ton of fun. I think this is actually our first conversation we've had one-on-one. So obviously, shout out to you. Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate this conversation. And I know I had big shoes to fill, because we kind of had a discussion about some of your favorite conversations on this podcast, and MMF is one of the names that came up. Hopefully, we'll see how much this conversation gets edited, but I'll take it as a win if this is a long-winded, long-form conversation.
Oh, it absolutely will be. Sorry, you keep going, my friend.
No, you're good. Yeah, definitely shout out to Damage Step. Everyone on Damage Step has been integral to my career as a player. I've definitely learned a lot from them. So everyone there, Ludi, Psychotic, Ricksuck, Rina, Bobby, Pedro, MMF, Insidious, and I hope I didn't forget anyone, because I just listed off a ton of names. But Shout out to the new guys as well, Simpson, Hopper. So those guys have been great. Shout out to all the great names I've met in the community so far. Bluetooth, AJT, Alvarado, Ivan. I mean, I think the players at the end of the day kind of make the players in the community are greater than the sum of just the game. And I think just having that great community where a lot of people want to outplay other people and kind of rip on each other kind of adds to the whole aspect of things and makes it all enjoyable. So shout out to everyone I've met so far. Anything else on your end?
Beautiful. No, thank you very much. It was a pleasure to have you on. Thanks for obviously giving me the time and jumping on and having the chat. And yes, as well, you lightly mentioned about the edits. We don't edit this thing, so the only editing that gets done is just putting the cool visuals on the background of the Discord chat that you and I are looking at right now. But other than that, mate, the whole thing airs all 1 hour and 10 minutes of this beautiful chat. So thanks for being here, and look out for the next episode, guys. And any questions you have for GOOLAHZ, leave them in the comment section below, and when they come through, I'll let him know that they're there and he can jump on and answer some for you. See you all soon.